Good morning, afternoon actually, Saturday afternoon, but it's cold here, so I'm in full regalia, looking like Paul Harrell, the gunman from America. Yeah, cold Saturday, not much happening out here on the old site, of course, because people work on the weekdays, not the weekend, but look at what we've got here. Starlink. Dun, dun, dun. Starlink. Aren't we lucky? Where's my one-to-one view gone? Right. Oh, there's the old Honda still running. Phew, fingers crossed. Anyway, nearly didn't start this morning, but I'll take it for a bit of a dry run to the supermarket shortly. Anyway, well, busy January, folks. Busy January. Not complaining. It's great to have so many things lined up. Hence, I'm here at the daytime. Actually, I've got a Zoom call with fellow parish council people tonight, so that's why I'm doing some stuff in the daytime, but I've got some stuff to do at home at the night as well, which is to finish Rohit's GS Mini. 3 in a month GS Mini, so I've got another one at home as well. Anyway, so we have here Pawel's Squier Precision base, and it's in for a fix of an electrical jack problem. Now I hadn't got a high quality jack. Oh, I had got high quality. I've got these all parts stereo jacks actually, but I've cut off a lug off those, so it's a high quality all parts jack minus the extra lug that we don't need. So I cut that off and sanded it down a bit because I didn't have a spare one, and I don't want to delay this. So it's perfectly good. It's just modified. So we're going to replace the jack. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a bit of precision fret leveling on this, and this is an interesting one because I've got it written down in my hand. I never remember what other people's recommendations are for actions, right? Because it matters to me what I'm choosing to set, and then how, or what a customer wants first and foremost, and then how that plays out. So the precision-based type of standard action is recommended at 2.4 millimeters at the something fret. And this is actually, that's not bad actually, that's there, 2.5, look at that. And one point I didn't say at the high fret, but I take a little run down from there, and that's coming in at 2 at the, what's the word, high E, not high E, that one, G. So, so this is actually about the right action. It was too high before. So that's not too bad. I'm quite happy with that action. So that's what I picked just off the top of my head as an action. But what we got was playable strings down here. We've got some dead strings up here. So I went back to Pav and I said, look, do you want, I think this needs a little bit of fret leveling, which isn't something I always do on bass guitars, but on this one I think it does. So we are going to begin the game with some fret leveling on a bass, and we'll do it pretty much the same kind of approach as with a 6-string. So I'm just going to, I'm not going to do it that way, I've grabbed the wrong tuning key. I'm just going to pull some strings out of the way and just mark these up. So the benefit, or a small added benefit of doing this, is that we're going to get rid of some of the wear and tear on here. So we'll give it all a good clean. Once I've done the fret leveling, which is the sort of arduous work if you like, then we'll take the strings off, clean everything up, recrown and polish out the frets, and then take care of the switching or the jack plug. So the jack plug isn't working, but something else has gone in the, whoops, something else has gone in the at the same time. Now, have I got any more of these? I think I might have to get some more. Just a bit running short on colour. Yeah, so yeah, we'll do the leveling, and then we'll take care of the electrics. Oops, get under there. Silly old me. And that one there. Okay, so those three are tuned, and I'll just slack off this bass one. I can see some marks here where it's being pressed down and actually grinding. The coils are grinding against the fingerboard there, which is interesting. So the first fret action to me looks good for this. Now recommended, sort of an average recommended bass guitar first fret action is about 0.5 millimeters, which is higher obviously than the target I go for with a 6-string. But it's actually not that much higher. I could measure it here. We'll just take it off the bass side. Let's take a 0.5. We have got a 0.5 on here, which is here. So almost spot on. So that's good. This has got not a bad setup to begin with. But the problem is it was set high because at a desired nice comfortable low action it was giving us problems, as you saw with as you heard, with them there top frets. Now I am trying to pull off this here. This is my bass guitar leveling file, so it's, oh my god, would you please stop throwing things on the floor. Yeah, this is my bass guitar banana, as they call it. I call it. So let's put you there. I must use the old, what do you call it, that mirror, so I can see what I'm filming. So the three, I'm not going to start yet, I'm just getting bits and pieces out, but the three, just as with an acoustic, any guitar, electric or acoustic, we're looking to set three things before we level. First fret action, last fret action, which we've checked in both cases, and then the neck relief is the other thing. I didn't check the neck relief on standard bass type of setting, but this one is actually quite low. I would say that's about 0.4 or 0.45, something like that. It's not a ton for a bass guitar. I'm going to leave it there to begin with. So, as I say, a similar sort of approach. Now I can't remember, because it's a different length, I don't quite remember where these things go and how far apart they are. So let's just bear with me a minute. So it's about equidistant. So we've got this wonderful thingy, banana thing, which does the same thing as the electric guitar, it's just longer. So it bends the same way. We set we dial it in to equal the radius. So this is going to be a bit more obviously than a guitar, 6-string guitar radius. Sorry, relief curve, not radius, relief curve. And there we go, that's the right relief curve. So we know that the first problem, we think, right, this is what's good about this method, we think the problem is up at the top end, 11th, 12th, 13th fret onwards. I want that really out of the way, like I had it there, but it won't go unless I slack it off. So let's do that. It might not go even still, but would you stay out of the way? Because it's a bit reluctant to play the game, I'm going to add a tiny bit of tape to the proceedings to see if I can convince it to stay out of the way at this end, and then we use the spacer at the other end, which is not quite big enough on this one, so we'll use a bigger one made of cork, which should push it out of the way. So there we are, getting access to it in the same sort of way, and we expect the same sort of thing to show up, same kind of effect. We're looking to see where we've got high frets. In this case, I think a high hill of frets, and they'll be at the top end of the neck. So we're just working the, what do you call it, the banana, and we'll get to see what it tells us straight away. So I can see straight away, okay, so we haven't got high frets here, we've got low frets, that's causing the problem. So that's sort of it's counterintuitive in some ways, but we have cutting, not touching, low, cutting a bit, solidly cutting, solid. It looks high, relatively, a little bit high, higher, and then it drops off into a low section here, and the lows run almost all of this patch here. So the problem with that is that this is a dip, and everything after it is these frets here at the end are causing the strings to zizz out. So that confirms what I expected or experienced from playing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of keep working it, and my area I'm going to focus on right now is this end section here, because this low trough here is showing up really strongly now. See if you can see it from this angle. See if you can see it. So yeah, kind of. Okay, you can see it's cutting very solidly there on those frets, but look at this. From there to there, absolutely nothing. You see the frets aren't cutting at all, and then it starts cutting back here with a very high one there. So we've got a high peak here, we've got a low spot there, and we got sort of high again there. Or, you know, if it's up, down, there's no in between. So it's up, down, up significantly, down significantly, up right at the end. So that's what's causing that little bit of what I call fret slap on the target action that we want, which is actually not an astonishingly low action. We should be able to have it without that getting in the way, but it's typical that we find of guitars where you run into those uneven frets. Obviously the only thing an owner can do or player can do is to raise that action. Yeah, you've got to raise the action to allow it to play. So again, we haven't bottomed out this low spot up here, but we'll sort of try it out and see where we've gone with it. Better up to there, in the pit now. So if we want to have this action and it to play, we're going to have to basically continue and bottom this out. Now, one of the things that is obvious about this is we are taking away the. This is not my favourite way to do this. Maybe that's better. That's better. We're yeah, we get down there. We are going to we need to bottom out these down here. We need to basically open up. We need to stop the strings falling into this pit up here. We have to bring down the ones either side. That's the only way we're going to achieve it. So we have to keep on going. Now there comes a point where the playing action that we've set will accommodate the remaining unevenness. We won't have to chase it. It won't be so critical because we don't need it to be completely level, absolutely level. We need it to be level enough to play. And this should play without buzzing or slapping at the chosen action. So I'm kind of focusing on the leveling at this end, and when I get these low ditch, this pit of frets, when I get them just starting to cut, I will know that I've reached the point where we'll play at this chosen action. Now what I know is that it won't play much below that. That's the important thing. So Pawel, if you're watching this, I'm setting this for the lowest playing action you can have without that slap noise coming back in. But that's what I do with all guitars, including electrics. So, you know, the idea being is I don't level right down to an absolute minimum because there's no point wasting fret material when you're not going to get down to that action. Almost. Let's just be strict about this. Let's do a tiny bit more on there. We can afford to do it. It's not the end of the world to take that last little bit down, and it just allows us to make it play that little bit better. This thing is going to try and flip itself off if I don't slack it off better. That's right. Okay, so again I'm just going to really focus down this end here because I know the problem is in that low patch. So this is a little bit different way of thinking about fret leveling, and this is why the this tool is superb for the task because it allows me to deal with what I call the hills and valleys. Now, normally when you fret level, or when you think about fret leveling, we're all familiar with the idea that we level frets because actually most people think we level high frets. But in reality, we level high or low frets. So I know this is boring stuff for anybody who's watched any of my videos before, but I'm going to say it again with my slightly anemic looking marker pens. Unless I've got a better one over here. Let's try this purple one. We don't know. Any good? Yeah. Okay, so normally we tend to think of fret leveling as there's your fretboard, you got that fret, you got that fret, you got that one, and then you got that one. And that's kind of makes sense. So we sort of know that putting a flat beam on there snips off the top of that, and the idea is we get down to the same place as the rest. And then you probably know that we have to crown that to make it the same shape as the rest. And there we have familiar fret leveling. But that's okay. But there's another side of it. Even thinking of the simple model that I just did, there's another situation that we have that, and that, right? And we go, oh, that's where the string likes to be. But look, there's one underneath the level. So what do you do with that? Well, you've got no choice. You have to bring the others down until they meet the level of the lowest one. Badly drawn, but you get what I'm saying. So that's costly. You have to do it. There's no way around it. That's a little bit costly in the metal on those. But the problem with this, you see, if you don't do that, this low one makes this one here, which is perfectly normal compared to all the rest, that makes that one relatively high, and you're going to get that striking that. So a low one makes the next one high. So this might as well be a mile high. The only difference between the treatments is when you're leveling to bottom out a low one, you're aware that you're doing so by removing the material from here. When you're taking away a high one, you're primarily taking the material from one. So, but actually, in my experience, low frets are more common than high ones, believe it or not. But the low frets actually aren't really low. Sometimes, very rarely, they're low because they've been hammered in too far. More often, they're low because they sit in a momentary low spot in the fretboard. So we get something like this. We have a simplified fretboard, and it goes like that, believe it or not. And then we have that one there, perfectly normal, that one there, perfectly normal, that one there, perfectly normal, that one there, a little bit low, and that one there, perfectly normal. So the kink in the board has basically taken one of them out of reach of all the others. All right, so that's what happens. And then when you fret a string on the low one, so there's your string bending down onto there, and then it comes off there and it goes smack into the top of that one, because it makes that one there seem as if it's miles high. So that's the simple version of high and low frets. They both create the same effect, a localized buzzing in one place, one specific place. But what's interesting is what we get is overall the fingerboard goes like this, okay? And you go, what? How can you work with that? Well, it's difficult. So what you get is the fingerboard is really a wobbly thing, and this thing has about 5 of these ups and downs. And so you have frets that sit there, low a bit, high a bit, low a bit, high a bit, high a bit, low a bit, high a bit, high a bit, so on and so forth, and they get close together, obviously, as you get near the end. So this weird, bumpy thing, you think, am I leveling individual frets? Well, when they're really tall, you are. But as you're leveling, you're also doing something else, which is you're describing a more simplified curve onto this bumpy fretboard. And that's why this stiffer U-channel truss rod is really good, because this holds its very slight curve. And it somehow, I've found over the years, that curve imposes itself on this. I've exaggerated this massively. It's nothing like that. It's a millifraction of height we're talking about. But this fixed curve of the U-channel is an approximation of the overall neck, and we know it's an approximation because we measure it, we sample it at 3 points. Call it that point, and that point there. Remember, and I tuned the beam to curve smoothly between those 3 points. So if you think about kind of a digital thing, those 3 points there are you could call it a 3-point sample of that wobbly curve, right? But we know in reality the curve is much more complex than that. If we did a 50-point sample, we could reproduce that. Again, you know, if it was sampling, it would be there, followed by 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 there. You know, that's what a more detailed sample would look like. But it would still ultimately copy that real curve more closely than our 3-point sample does. But the 3-point sample has its benefits, and that is it approximates the curve that this neck should be if it wasn't subject to this weird compressed bunching effect. And this compressed bunching effect, by the way, is not just because the neck happens to be a funny shape. It's because there is a huge load of the strings pushing at it from either end, right? And the wood, as it's compressed, it bunches a little bit, as well as its natural built-in curvature and the interaction with the truss rod. So together, the longitudinal compression, the truss rod pressure, the string loading, which causes the longitudinal pressure, and the way that the wood reacts to bending, all create this inaccurate, wobbly, weird curve. And what we're hearing on this, when we originally set the action down on this guitar for an ideal action, what we're hearing is the notes being played down somewhere about here. We're hearing the strings spinning all the way between there and the saddle, but we're hearing it clattering slightly into some of these points here. And so we don't really need to know which ones they are. We can sort of tell because we know that this section is low. We can see it, and I pointed it out to you. And so we know that whilst this is low, these will seem excessively high, and therefore we need to use this tool to bottom out all of these a little bit so that these are no longer so low relative to these. And that's what we've done, and we just got it down to where these things touch that, and then it gives us that little bit of extra clearance. Now that minuscule bit of clearance is what recovers the playability using this method, and it's for that reason that I continue to use this method, because I think it's remarkable and unparalleled in the history, unequaled. It's a great way of doing it, my experience. So having done that last little bit of adjustment there, we will now test play this. Ta-da! There we are. We through the method I just drew, have bottomed out or evened out that discrepancy there, and we've now got back the playability all the way across the neck at that chosen low action that we simply couldn't have before. It was no argument about it. We couldn't have it. It wasn't available to us at that action. So now I'm going to move to the B track. Sorry, this is speaking of 6 strings. I'm moving now to the D track on this bass guitar, and I'm going to. You hear it clattering at the end only just because the beam is slightly shorter than the whole neck, so it's just clanking into the end fret very slightly. But I'm just going to run this backwards and forwards in the D track, and we're going to again kind of look at it from a little bit of a pullback distance. Now I'm expecting there's no reason why the same patch up here shouldn't be also slightly low. You often tend to find though it's the edges that are most pronounced. So what I'm finding as we come in here is this is actually just missing. We're still in a low patch here, so it's an overall kink. We can be sure of that. So we have to do a bit more like we did with the G string. So again, no surprises. It's what we expected. We're going to just continue with this curve Now next time I do the next track, the A track, I'm going to recalibrate the tool. But again, all I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to work my way until we just about bottom out this low spot right up here. Otherwise we're just going to be stuck with buzzing frets at a decent action that we should be able to have on this guitar. You know, if it's a stated standard playing action, then it's not low by my standards. It's a good playing action. If Fender Precision bass recommend it, it's a good action, but it's not unusually low. So we absolutely should expect it to play. But what you're seeing is that just with all guitars, this bass comes with uneven frets built in. It's the absolutely standard. See, still in that little ditch up there. So as this room very slowly begins to warm up, I can take that off. So just more work, same setting on the leveling beam, just a bit more work to do. Again, see, with experience of using this, I now know where I am with this. I know what the neck's doing. I've drawn it out. It tallies with my experience, and the fact that it's struggling to play is this sunken section of the neck. Now we can't change that. It wouldn't even make sense to take the strings off, the neck off, and radius or even plane, take the frets out and plane, unless it's a clearly visible, measurable dip without the strings on. But the point is, this is doing what it's doing because it's under load, and the compression, there we go, we're touching the frets now, that I can now tell you that will clear it up. But it's happening under load, under compression, so there's no point taking all the strings and frets off and planing it to some flat level, because it's not an inherent kink in the wood that's causing it. It's what the wood does under load that's doing it. So that's really interesting. Now, visually, these notes should play. Just about spot on. So now I'm going to recalibrate for the A track, as I call it. Sorry, I always catch that on these strings. Trying to be careful. Got new strings anyway, same gauge, 105 down to 45s. So we'll clean up, oil the fingerboard, put new strings on. It's going to be lovely, lovely and done. Okay, so that looks like the overall relief is just a tiny bit, the tool's just a tiny bit flat, so we'll just add a little bit of curvature. The amount that we have to add in is absolutely tiny. That's good. And it's a feel, it's a look thing, as you can visually check it, but it's also very much a feel thing, and you get the feel with experience, really. That's the only advice I can give if you use this method. The longer you use this and the more you trust what the tool and the fingerboard are telling you, fretboard are telling you, the more rewarding this will be. Now, since the previous first two strings tracks, as I call them, have picked up that there's a very low, particularly low ditch or valley up at this top end of the guitar, I'm going to anticipate, and it's going to be here on the A track as well. Now sometimes it does change from side to side, and that could just be a natural consequence of the structure of the wood over which we have no control. You might find that suddenly you get down to it and it doesn't take so long, and that's a case here. I think we're just through already to bottoming out these low frets, so there's not as big a low on this side. You can just hear it coming back in with that little clatter sound. We'll do a tiny bit more, but we're very close to it being on the mark. So great method. I'm still as happy to crow about this method as I was within the first year of adopting it. It's since proved to be, or turned out to be, even more effective than I could have thought at first, as it reveals its kind of in-use technique secrets. Brilliant, I have to say. So, you know, people sometimes say, see, this last fret here is way high compared to these being low. This one's miles high compared to those, and it's probably that's what was catching. But we have to take them all down in order to make it work. If we fix just one, we will create another high spot or another low spot. It's pointless. So people sometimes think, oh God, all that waste of fret metal. Well, first of all, it's not an awful lot of fret metal. It might look like it is, but it's not an empirically, it's not a ton of metal. It's a relatively small amount. But it's a kind of there's no magic bullet for this. You're going to get it to play either if you raise your string playing action up, which nobody wants, and if you're not prepared to raise your action, then you may get away with some of it by chucking more relief into the neck shape, but most people don't like that because it makes it feel a taller action to play. Or you maybe, I don't know, you might even change to less floppy strings and maybe a tighter string, I don't know, whatever, a lighter gauge or a different scale length guitar or whatever. So, but the truth is, you have to make space for the string to move the way it wants to move for your playing style, and so there's no kind of tricky way around it. And I found that this method is the best way I know to make this fretboard comply with the action we've chosen for it to play at. Now, it seems like a lot of work, and it's not cheap, as you know, but the thing about it is that it's the difference between a guitar you just don't go back to and a guitar that you want to keep on playing. And it's because I do it this way that I have a job list that's filling up, has pretty much filled up all of January. You know, it's because of sticking with this method and trusting in it. I'm not saying that as a brag. I'm just saying that it's the fact I realized the benefit of this method when I first encountered it, and then stuck with it and made a point of learning from what it told me. And so the payback is that, you know, I've got lots to work on, which is brilliant. Now this tiny little bit of slap here, there's the ultimate low spot there. A bit more. So there's a tiny bit more flap in the bass string, and of course it's going to be much more pronounced than it is on a 6-string low E. In this case it's quite a lot of movement. So we can just aim to tame this end ditch, and of course we're also taking care of the middle section as well, in case there's a little bit still in there. And I think the thing that comes with experience is watching the fret condition and knowing whether you have reached a place that's good to play, and whether you stop at that point or whether you continue. And in this case I think we're just about there. Yeah, and so it's not cheap, but it is the difference between, generally speaking, it really is. generally speaking, it's the difference between a guitar that people do want to come back to again and again, and one which you end up seeing them say, beautiful looking, custom shop, this, that or the other. I'm selling, how much should I sell it for? I saw one this morning. You know, I can't quite get on with it. Now, think about it. What could you not quite get on with about a custom shop guitar? And I'll tell you what it is. It looks absolutely fantastic. It's made of all the best possible components, including the kind of quality pickups that I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt will sound fantastic. But guess what? The person can't live with them. Hasn't bonded with it. And I can promise you that the thing they haven't bonded with is its playability. Ta-da! And they haven't bonded with its playability because it doesn't have good enough playability. And that's sadly the truth of even the most expensive custom shop guitars. So yes, this is expensive. Yes, you might think, but look, he's taken off, I'll show you the frets in a minute, he's taken off X amount of metal off my frets. But what you'll have back is a guitar that will play at a much lower action, ow, and it will feel completely different to play because of that. And it may be the difference between you wanting to keep it or play it more, or you know, invest more in it with some different pickups or whatever it is you might want to do. And it certainly won't be the one that you can't quite get on with and have to sell on. Salon Dion. Anyway, so you know, I think it's, you know, I say to people, they say to me, Larry, no, they don't say Larry. They say to me, Sam, what if I had, you know, 150 quid to spend on my guitar, regardless of its sort of price point, what would you do? And unsurprisingly, I would say, spend it on a top quality setup. And I mean, obviously I mean what I would consider a quality setup, meaning one that absolutely has, I would say, either a plec fret level in it as a minimum, or better yet, one done by hand this way. You know, and there are a few people, good people out there who've seen this method, many of which I've introduced to it, and now I know for a fact are doing this kind of work now themselves. And I would say, if you don't want to use me, if I ain't your cup of tea, then find one of them and use, you know, who's good at this method, and get them to do it, because this method gives you that playability that the factory just can't or won't, because it takes this much time and experience to do it. And even from experiments and customer feedback, not even the plec machine can quite match it, amazingly. I mean, I was stunned to find that out, because I'm kind of always, you know, I'm self-deprecating most of the time, and I would assume that this fancy computer would do a technically better job than me, although I know this is a good system. And actually it appears not to do quite as good a job from a few direct tests or back-to-backs. But anyway, I'm just happy to be able to say that. But so it's not a ton of money to get the playing action you want without any of the playability issues, the buzzes, the fret slap, as we just experienced at the, you know, right up the top end, and not that individual buzz, you know, on one particular string because there's a high or a low fret, but that sort of cluster of clattery noises that just eventually will put us off playing it, or we'll be forced to go back to the higher action that we sort of don't want to have it at, because that was the whole point of we wanted a better action. Anyway, so look, that's the leveling part done. Obviously I talked my way through it all, as I do. There's nothing new there. Let's hang my extra long U-channel truss rod up. So the next bit, I think we'll just give this a nice old clean, and we can do it with any old way we want. Who's got more of this? So we can have let's get a piece of kitchen roll. I've got the worst fire. I bought it probably at some big. It's a Stanley, but it's a totally. I don't know how we're going power-wise. Look at this thing. It's absolutely useless. You probably got one, some of you. I know it looks a bit clogged up and it's burnt. It's like the grill is a bit scorched, but apart from that, this is on full. It's on full heat and full blast, and there just is not even enough heat. Well, it's enough heat to bring me up to a sweltering, so far 8.9 degrees from about 1 or 2 when we came in just now. So it's getting there, but as you can tell, it's still bloody cold. I keep saying to myself, I'm going to get myself a new darned thing. Now I'm not cleaning the frets per se here. I just want to get some of the fret dust off. And then I'll show you the frets, and you can see how much to get it to play at the recommended precision bass, right? Not ultra low, but the recommended precision bass action. I'll show you how much hard work it took, and actually I've just done that thing where I take off the colour. What's that stuff called? Pen. So I'll have lost you the ability to see very easily. Silly me. Maybe I can still show you. Naphtha, Coleman's cooking fuel. A litre for about 10 to 12 quid, depending on who you buy it from. It is inept. Yes, it's inept naphtha, inert naphtha. Perfect for finishes, whether they be nitrocellulose or polyurethane. All right, so it's the number one. It's the same as, it's exact same formulation, almost exactly the same as, what's it called? Swan lighter fluid fuel, but it's the same stuff, but it's a bigger volume, and you can depend on it. It's consistent every time. So you see the flat spots there on that side. That's quite a lot of work in this. This is the low spot, and then you go to really the lowest spot here. Oh, sorry, it's not low. Where's the low spot? Yeah, it is the low. There's the ones before the low spot, and there's the low spot. So we're just touching the low spot. Here we're just about kissing it. Can you see that? But here, to get down to kiss the top of the frets with the low spot, we've had to take quite a bit of material, and that's the only way around it because of this, the undulations of the undulation. You know what I mean? That's how it works. That's how it is. So what we're going to do next is we're going to find me I must have a spare one. What did I do with them? I had a bunch of marker pens in that box, and then I think I took them out, and then I thought I put them where I'd use them, which was there, which I couldn't have done because they aren't there. Yeah. Did I put them in the electrical department? Why would I put them in? Ah, here they are. Thank God for this. They've been sitting around for years, and they haven't been opened. So with a bit of luck, I knew I had some spare. They should be brand new. Wow, yes. Right, where's the crappy one? You're going in the bin. You're going in the bin. Ooh, fresh. And these were given to me, and I think it was Martin gave me these in a kind of pack of all kinds of goodies a long time ago. Martin, if you're watching, Martin Muck, these I think were from you, and I have kept them all this time and been using them along the way, and now I've had to bring out a new one. Isn't that wasteful? Right. So the next step of the way is to recrown these frets, and let's zoom in on the first couple. Be good to see even closer, but then I run out of kind of camera view very quickly. So I can do 3 and you can see it. So I'm going to put a thing under there to support the neck, just that little bit. That'll do. Can you see? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so I'm going to use I'm going to use the medium one, although there would be supposedly jumbos, but I think the medium size thing works fine. So I'm going to work away the flattened edges of the frets. Now the fret leveling at this end will have pretty much almost totally taken away any fret wear, but it's a byproduct of leveling them. I don't try to aim for that unless somebody asks me specifically, can you get rid of this fret wear, and I don't mind that it costs fret metal to do so, but personally I don't think it's, I'm going to say it in an American way, that good of an exchange. I said it jokingly, knowingly. Anyway, so I'm going to whiz my way up and down. Very little, by the way, leveling that's gone on here, but if we walk a mile with me, there we are. Where did I stop? Right. Yeah, as we go through, get down towards the more heavily done ones, you'll start to see where it has taken a lot of material. Again, this is very quick, not much. I'm going to pull you into the camera view. Again, here, not much at all, quickly through, and we'll probably start seeing where it takes longer in a minute. Here's one. That's going to be, you can probably, where is it? There it is. You see how wide that flat spot is there. Relatively speaking, it's a lot wider than it's been so far, and as a result we have to spend some extra time here to crown off the fret and round it off so it's more arch shaped. So it takes more time, more work involved. Where have we gone to? And again, the same will apply to these. You can see how much black is showing there. It's quite a lot. And if I whiz forward on the other ones that you can see, just to give you an example, that's going to take a while. That's going to take a while. So all of this up this end, apart from the very low bits now I'm about to come to that you can't see, whoops, are more time consuming. So let's do it. I got an interesting refret request from somebody who wants me to refret their bass with mandolin wire, and it's a Leyland Sklar, is it, thing? Bass player, Lee, they call him, don't they? Lee. And I did a bit of research because I haven't done one with that instrument fret wire. You know what I mean. What was the instrument? God, that small thing. Ding, 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 ding. Mandolin. Thank you. Yes, so I haven't done one, but so I did a bit of research, and apparently it's something he did once upon a time. Kind of, he had an idea to do it. He got his tech to do it for him, and has loved it and done it on all his guitars ever since. So it's kind of created a bit of a trend for doing it, and lots of people like it that way now. So that's going to be interesting. Of course, the difference will come whether if you're going down from a jumbo fret to a mandolin fret wire. It's going to be interesting to see what the tang comparison is, and whether we're going to get left with a loose tang slots, maybe. Okay, so we're now coming to the dip, the low part, and so it's going to be less material removed. A little bit on the end, but not much, and so on. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. That's a different thing. As you know, or some of you might know, I'm nearly finished with Steve's Gibson ES333 back respray refinish, which has been a really interesting project. And it's sort of a general consensus is that the finish I've got, most people prefer it to the original slightly muddy Gibson finish, and that's nice because I do prefer it myself, because it shows a much nicer grain contrast and it makes the wood look a million times more interesting. However, part of my challenge to myself was to try and recreate the original. So in that sense, it's not perfect, but I'll be happy to have attained a finish overall that works and that Steve's happy with, and it's got rid of the principal annoying blemishes. There is one ding that remains visible, and it's because I couldn't stop even the material I used, the resin I used to fill the ditch, the hole, it was a physical hole, didn't have, or had somewhat absorbent properties, and absorbed some of the what's the stuff, stain along the way. So there was no way around that really, and so consequently it didn't, or let's put it this way, it had a different absorbency quotient amount than the wood, and so you get a darker spot, but the nice thing about it is that the finish all around it will be it'll be this, it'll have the look of the finish all around it. And yes, you can sort of see, if you look very closely, you can see the dark spot of Venus, Jupiter, whichever one has the spot. Jupiter? Huh? I've actually forgotten. It's Jupiter, isn't it? Great spot of Jupiter. Anyway. So, just giving this now a good clean down, which A, cleans the board, B, cleans the dust and the marker pen, and then I'll do it again afterwards, but it'll be a lighter clean because I'll just be cleaning off the sanding dust in a little while. Okay, that's good. The nut, first fret action is good. I'm not going to mess with that, and actually, believe it or not, this comes with, I think, a tusk nut. It's a grey plastic that looks surprisingly like tusk. So, and my experience is that the Fender nut on basses never gives me any tuning problems. So I wouldn't. It's not necessary to replace. It's not urgent to replace, and actually, it's luckily so, because the Tusk bass nut catalogue is very limited. I mean, the catalogue itself is limited, and on top of that, even when the catalogue isn't limited, finding people who have the full range of listed Tusk nuts in supply is always extremely unlikely, so difficult to find. So rather than be getting something sort of vaguely close and ending up modifying and running into all kinds of problems of overcutting and undercutting and stuff, it's with the basses, I tend to go on if it ain't broke, I'm not going to spend 30-40 pounds on wasted Tusk material trying to find the right size. Anyway, so that's my usual rule of thumb as far as basses go. I mean, of course, I would if there was an issue with the tuning, but there never is. So while I'm doing this bit of body cleaning here, before I go into the polishing of the fretboard game, I think I'll just flip her over and clean the back. So yeah, I've got another GS Mini to do. That'll be a third in a month. I've got the Gibson refinish to complete. I have got a vintage made in Japan Fender Strat to refret and set up. I've got an old modded synth unit modded made in Mexico Strat to de-synthesizerify and set up. I've got a USA Strat coming. I've got quite a few left-handed kit things along the way for Andrew. So lots on, a busy January. So there's my mucky cloth. So what I'm going to do now is very boring, but I'm going to basically just get the whole of the neck masked off, and this takes a while of sort of boring stuff. So what I'll probably do while I'm masking this off, ready for the sanding and polishing process, is I will go off camera, charge my phone, listen to something on the other phone radio screen thing, YouTube, whatever. Oops. And I'll come back when this is polished up, when I'm going to, actually no, tell you what, I won't go yet. What I'll do is I'll explore the electrics first while we're in. I'll put all of this stuff on, which you could probably stay with me until I've done, just out of sheer boredom. There are people here. What are they doing? What are you doing? Ah, do you know what comes? People come here. Huh? It's a Land Rover. They come here to use the jet wash. That's what they do. You can catch my car in it while you're at it. I put it through the car wash the other day. Mighty expensive these days, but it was so nice to get all of that December and January grime off it, just sitting in there in the warm because it was freezing. Anyway, yeah, so busy January still to finish, which is just as well, because January is always accountant payment month. Well, it's books, accounts month, and accountant's payment month. So that's an extra grand for the accountant. Very good accountants, and make the whole thing very straightforward for us, thank God, because I hate that aspect of things. But anyway, they do a great job for us, but it's not cheap. So we have to kind of, January is always January, February always tends to be very expensive, but hopefully with the busyness that I've got this year, we'll be in a reasonable position. As I've kind of said many times before on this, you know, when people say to me, wow, you're living the dream and, you know, I envy you and stuff, it's not a good living. It could be if you were young and you wanted to work 12 hours a day and hustle so that you had at least a couple of setups a day, or a setup and some repairs, upgrades, and you were willing to, or it was good for you to spend, you know, 8 hours in the workshop doing this sort of stuff. And then the problem is you'd have to do, or I have to do, you know, a good few other hours doing video stuff, stills, writing Facebook, social media stuff. There's a lot to do, buying parts, conversing with people, talking guitars with people. You know, there's a lot more that goes on than the actual work hours. But if you were young and full of vigor, you could probably, you know, make double what I make, probably easily. But I am not young and vigorous. I am 60, and I know my kind of pace and my limits, and I know that to do the best work I do, then a limited amount of time a day doing this kind of work. Oops, I'm looking totally in the wrong place. Limited time of day per day is what's good for me, and then it leaves a balance of time for the other things, and plenty of time to kind of do stuff that I need to do with Claire here and there. So it is the life, right? Because you get to make people happy most of the time by setting up guitars and making them better than they were, to the point where somebody's really happy with what you've done. And there's nothing better in business than someone giving you a fair rate of pay so that you can leave them happy at the end of it. That's just a great, that's the best outcome you could hope for. Everything else, to me, if you aren't doing that, you're in business you're kind of scamming people, or if you're taking if you're taking money from people for any service and they feel grudging, or it's a service they really don't want to pay, it's just not good. It's not good for anyone. So, it's why I even, paying a high price, people say, oh, why don't you just get a such and such bookkeeper from so and so somewhere? Why don't you do it yourself? Or instead of paying an accountant, big firm of accountants, £1,000 a month. And I just know that the peace of mind that I get when these guys contact me, say, have you got your books up to date or your accounts up to date? Well, can you make sure they're up to date, and it's time to produce your accounts, blah, blah, blah. The peace of mind I have from knowing that I just hand them, I go in and tidy up all my things that aren't accounted for in my electronic accounts department, and I make sure I got as much of that all sorted out as possible, and then I hand it over to them and they check it all out and make sure it all tallies and makes sense, and they offset this against that when it's appropriate to do so, and that against this, and that £1,000 means I don't have to spend any evenings fretting, pun intended, tearing my hair out, or feeling like I didn't want to be on this planet because I'm doing something so hideous. So I think it's not a grudge purchase. It's hard to make the extra money every year because we never end up with it sort of stashed away, because it's just the way of things. It's a bit subsistence living. But even with that said, I don't mind the end of year push to put the money together, get the money together to pay them, because I value it, the service. I like the peace of mind they give me. So in the terms of doing something with guitars, if you can work the amount that's right for you, and make enough money to get by in a style that you can be grateful for, even if it's not perfect and it doesn't allow you to splash out here and there on new this and new that. But if you're doing something you enjoy, that's an amazing thing to begin with. And if you're kind of ticking along with it, even if you could certainly do with more, but you're ticking along, then yes, it is the life. But you'd have to be, if you wanted to do it, you might either have to work 3 times more than me to make a sort of a living, more of a living out of it, or you have to prepare to live the way we do, which is quite limited in terms of options. But we don't need any more than that. We're a certain age. We're not doing extravagant things, much as I'd still like to travel more. But anyway, it's just that interesting when people sort of talk about it being living the life, living the dream. Anyway, I'm going to do all the polishing bit off camera now. I'll see you when... No, I didn't. Thank you. Sorry. Yes, no, I am. Yes, I'm going to do that way round, because I've now just gone and covered up the entire scratch plate that I need to take apart. So strike me from the record. I'm going to go off, do the polishing, come back and do the electrics. See you in a minute. Okay, we're back after polishing out all the lovely leveled frets. So now it's time to get down onto that thing there. Can I see what I'm looking at? That. Yes, let's have a look down at that. So we shall remove this. I think what happened with this is that the jack socket started spinning or coming loose, and I think that I've tightened it up, and it probably went round before it tightened up enough, and I should have... Nah, shall I do this afterwards? I hate these push-on knobs. I should have probably not done that way, but do this way. Start again. Yeah, so they probably came off broke a wire, hence the intermittent fault, and then the lack of jeez. I mean, how are you supposed to get this off without breaking your pots is ridiculous. There is no, these aren't the right kind of tools to lift it off. This won't work. No, it might work if I hold it tight, but not designed for it. So you can see that horrible stuff. What do you call it? Cellophane caught under here. I just hate it. So I'm going to go around and just snip it off so I can get rid of it. Ugh. Anyway. So yeah, we're going to have a look and see which wires broke at the time of the rolling, spinning jack socket, and we'll put that right and make sure that the tones work. It's master volume and 2 tones, isn't it? So I shall see in a minute. So what else has been going down? Oh, my stepson's getting married. How nice. And his GF, who they're a great couple together actually. I'm very, very happy for them. Oh, it's a scary world to be getting married into, though, I've got to say. It's like for all our kids, including mine as well, my 2 boys, it's just, I don't quite know how to where to find too much positivity about the situation we're in, generally speaking. And knowing this, you could probably get this out here, but I am not going to. Yeah, and the situation that we're seeing now with the UK and American strikes in certain African, Horn of Africa or whatever country, I hate listening to the commentary on the radio, which seems to be all largely obsessed with talking about our cost of living this and our cost of living that, when in fact what's really the big deal at the moment is that these are long screws. Cool. To me, the cost of living thing is just a distraction. What worries me most of all is, what's happened there? It's a bit mangled and stuff. Yeah, my concern is that this is this situation is exactly what Vladimir Putin set out to have, because I've just lost my thing. Because the disruption in the Gulf, Red Sea, is guaranteed to will put the price of oil up, and the price of oil going up is what we'll continue to pay for Mr. P's war, unfortunately. Okay, let's have a look and see what's happened here. So we've got pickups, 2 pickups. So we've got 2 yellows, and that's the first pickup. That's the second pickup. So it's 2 volumes. Sorry, 1 tone. That's what I meant. And we should have what have we got? 2 volumes, 1 tone, and that one goes to there and across to there, but nowhere else. Oh, I see. It goes to there. That to there to there. 2 volumes, 1 tone. So what's the tone connected to? It's connected to the top there, it's connected to the middle there, that's connected, that goes to, so that's the out. So this output, so there's no switching. How does that work? Oh, I see. Do I? Yes. Okay. Right. Okay. That's why it's conked out. So this is a little bit unusual, in that we've got a what? How many wires here? Core 1, 2, 3, 4, and so this is a bit short. We can strip it back. I think we'll get away with it. So the idea is this red wire here goes to the jack, and the tone pot is slaved off the jack, whereas the white. Okay. So look, both. So the what? Oh dear, golly gosh! No, this is a mess. We'll throw that away. Okay, Pav. So we've got. So it looks like this must be the two outputs from the volumes. The white and the yellow should go to the hot, and only at the moment only the white is. The yellow's been accidentally stuck in with the ground. Actually the red, the white and the yellow should all go to the hot lug, which is this one. At the moment only the white's going to it, which means only that one's going out, and that one's not going out at all. And yeah, well, simple as that. So we have to, so everything's connected in here. It's all wired up wrong at the end there. So the question is, do I work with this? Have we got enough? I think we've got probably just enough if I cut this back here. Now this is a Saturday, and they're using the old Pawel jet washer, and I was told that it wasn't available on the weekends because it was locked, but maybe everybody has it available on Saturdays. I don't know. Okay, so we'll lose that knackered doofer out there, and we'll install this nice new one here. Delicious. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of ye olde very light, ultralight thread lock on it. Very little, or a tiny bit, a little bit. And that will just help hold it in place, like so. Got that on there. Okay, so I'm going to get me soldering iron switched on. Soldering iron on. Let me entertain you. Let me entertain you. Let me entertain you. There's a bit of activity here today, so maybe it's considered a work day because there are people around. Right, that's that. We'll need some solder. Let's have a bit of solder, a grabbery thing, a solder sucker, and a soldering something or other. So let's see. What can you see? What can you see? Yeah. Anyway, I just think that Putin's ability to continue funding the war in Ukraine is dependent on price of oil. And the biggest enemy was the control of the price of oil, which was cutting his profits down massively. However, if somebody like Putin accidentally started up this crisis in the Middle East, funded Iran and the Houthis and everything, and this price of oil went up, then guess what? Looky. Basically, it would go up and Putin would have more revenue, which I think is what he's done. Okay, so just the thought here. These two have to go straight to the output. They're balanced together, so one will turn the other one down because they're linked. Are they going in and out the same? Yeah, they're interlinked volume-wise, but that's how it's set up. So we've basically, the only earth is this ground one. The red is the back to the tone, which is this one here. The yellow is the output. So basically, all three of these go to the hot lug, baby tonight, which it seems odd. I've never seen, I mean, I can't remember last time I've done 3 hot wires to the same lug, but that's how it goes. I suppose the idea about, it seems weird, I often think it's weird to have the volumes interlinked so that one turns the other one down, but if you're playing, when you're playing, it's kind of logical that you want that to happen. You don't want to turn one down and then find you're still up on the other one making a lot of noise if you're trying to control the volume, if you see what I mean. Okay, so let's get some tip cleaner on there. So we're going to tin both of these, and then we'll probably see if we can just clean up. Oh, sorry, we'll see if we can mask off. No, shrink wrap a bit of the lugs, so when we put this onto the thing, we've got a bit of extra protection. So what am I doing? Oh yes, so to do that, we've got to come out through the hool, which means we've got to wiggle all of this back into existence. Now this is a really tricky little thing because, as you can see, everything is wiggly. Everything's got to fit in and get pushed in under there. So into the cavity you go, my friend. Into the cavity you go. You go. And we're looking for making sure everything fits in. Yeah. Okay. So we're just about out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tack down a couple of these just to keep everything from falling back out. And then the idea will be that we look at our bits and we look at our new what's it. Actually, we don't have a lot of room down here to put in the gripping hand, so we may just have to do it as such. So we're going to have an earth going down to there. What on earth is happening? The problem with these is whatever we use, if we're going to use a bit of masking thing, but shrink what's it, we can only fit so much up here. That comes down. It won't come down there, will it? No. Come down. Comes off there to there. So this has to be a really short piece, if at all. So if we have a little short piece, the purpose of this would be possibly only to go in there. But the problem is, you see, we can't really do that because we haven't any access to it. See what I mean? It all looks good, but unless we've got a run up. Unless we've got a longer, we can do it with a bit of a longer run. Well, I suppose, look, here's what we'll do. Let's get the hot air blower out. No, that's not what we want to do, silly person. What am I doing? You dozy person, you. I need that to sit up there, not thinged. Right. So I need that to go, to connect with that at a distance. So what do we just hold it in place and hold one out of the way? See, it's all hard to get hold of. I want this to stick in there, stick in there. like so. Not. Right, maybe I'll find a way to get this involved. This doesn't seem very straightforward. Sorry if the view is boring. So we're going to go in at some sensible angle. What we're going to do, right, we are aiming for, can you stay there? We're aiming for that. And we want it to work to a certain height, but we can't reach it with this because it's falling all over the place. Hold on. Do as you're told. Come forward, go down, come forward, go down. So if we get a little bit of a reach in here, we can get a connection there. Let's press it down. If I can just get it, I want to get this tabbed into, soldered into place without overboiling the that stuff. So let's try it. Let's just try it. I don't know what you can see. That would help if I gave you a view and a half. There you go, something like that, which will change in a minute. So up to here and to there. Nicely held in place. Hasn't heated up that bit of wire stuff too much. We get the extra bit from over here. So if we take this, and I guess I'm saying is, with a bit of luck, this will fit on there like so. Hurrah! And then we can put this bit on here like so, and then double this bit into here like so. That's kind of out of the way. Is that enough out of the way? Let's help it along by cutting this back a fraction. Sorry, you probably can't see anything there. Something like that will do. You can probably just still see. Now what I'll do, once I've soldered these two together, or these together, I'm going to test the circuit before I go and thingy it back in place. So we do that by grabbing the amp. Would you come along? Thank you. Noise. All right, all right. Please. Right, stick that there for a minute. Hold it there. Buzzy noise. See, I can just get this shrink wrap doofly thing there. That's it. Get these two melted up a bit. Burn the finger. Okay. Here we have done. Fix aid. So yes, your wiring wasn't quite right, but that's okay. Wiring on guitars is a mighty pain. I tell you that much. Let's put you over there so I can show you, see what we're doing. Right, so let me just reinsert this. Now, the problem with this is, having done this, I want to pull this in from the inside because it has some exposed ground wire. Now, ground wire being exposed inside there is no real problem, except what we don't want is it to hit, we want it to get out of the way so it doesn't hit the hot wire, like so. The long wires, the light of the long wires, light of the long screws, I should say. And now with a bit of luck, a mixture of, with luck, fixing this, plus a little bit of that extra stuff to help it stick. Come on, friends. Thank you. The thread lock. The light thread lock should all be good, but I tell you what, let's just make sure one more time. Make sure one more time that this is now working in situ. Oh, they are independent. How about that? That's good. Now, what is it about that wiring that makes them independent? Anybody know? Because they look like they were following, well, the opposite way round, but they look the same way round because they were facing each other. Okay, that's good. So forget anything I said about the two controlling them. They are independent. So take back anything I said about having to turn two things down at the same time. It's obviously desirable that you have two controlling the overall volume, and that you should know to get to quiet you have to get both of them, take both of them down in a hurry. Oh well. So there we are, job mostly done. Now after this I've got to go to the exciting supermarket. After that I go home, and after that I have a phone call, Zoom call, and after that I'm finishing the GS Mini. And Pav, you should be able to come and get this tomorrow, if that suits you. Nice. So that means I can turn off the electrical side of things, and I can remove my electrical bits and bobs out of the way. I found a terrible TV comedy yesterday, one of those old 70s ones, and it had Jane Asher and Felicity Kendall. Now, I'm of an age where Felicity Kendall was quite a sweetheart in my memory of that middle-class, hideous middle-class sitcom called The Good Life. It was kind of cringy, but she was somehow extremely lovable, and anyway, she appears in this other thing, and what's it called? I forget what it's called. Actually, I don't know what it's called, but it had Jane Asher, Felicity Kendall, and some bloke. Anyway, the point is, Jane Asher plays this woman who is a mistress to Jane Asher's husband. So of course at the beginning, I don't know how it works out, but at the beginning they don't know each other, but Felicity Kendall's just having the affair, and we get to see him, the husband, going back to his Jane Asher wife and then coming back to Felicity Kendall. But it's absolutely awful. It's just the worst. And I tried so hard to give it time. I watched nearly a whole episode, 30 minutes or something. I just thought, no, this isn't going to get better. And one of the problems was that the actor playing the guy who these women are supposed to be madly in love with was such a useless actor, bless him. It was wooden, completely wooden. And it was just, it was a pretty unbelievable premise, the whole thing. The wife didn't seem to bother that much. And Felicity Kendall's character didn't really mind that this man was never going to really leave his wife for her, as if she would have too much respect for herself if he did, you know. But anyway, it was dated. It was actually not 70s. It was 1984, but it was really dated, and unfortunately, I think the complete lack of chemistry in this actor, the male lead actor, was, I think, was the worst part. You know, because you can get some really great old sitcoms where the premise is just totally stupid, and in a way, I mean, you know, if you kind of look back on it and you said, I know, I've got this one where this middle-aged stockbroker lives next door to this what looks like middle-aged but supposed to be young Richard Briers and his perky little wife, and they're living on the land, and isn't it wonderful? Well, that's a pretty stupid, naff proposition. Anyway, but as we all know, it worked. It had a charm because, I would say, because the actors, you know, even Richard Briers, who is, I think, a pretty naff. Well, no, he wasn't naff. What was Richard Briers? He was stodgy, probably, you know, sort of inescapably middle class, plummy. Anyway, whatever. But it worked because it was a really, the acting made it work. Okay, so we are going to, now I normally go 2. Let's start by going 2, but I think that's too much on a bass, frankly. Twang, stick it down in there, bend it over there, pull. Let's see if we need to reduce it to just 1 turn. See how much this goes round. I saw somebody post on a discussion about somebody had wound on some strings with very, very little winding. In fact, it was on a split shaft post, and it only literally bent like in a Z shape to hold the string on, and everybody was kind of shouting about how terrible that was. And actually, it seemed to me, as long as they got that, you know, the kind of the Z in and out of the thing, it seemed to me to work perfectly well. So I'm quite sure what they were all. I think it was just a convention that people were seemed like it to them had been transgressed. You can't do that. Well, you can. So I am going 2 past the place I'm working, if you see what I mean. I probably need a heftier cutter. Heftier cutter. Like so. That was the right spot, wasn't it? Yes. Just 2, yeah. So bend down, bend it, yank it, and away we go. Yeah, so anyway, that was the end of me watching that thing. It was so bad I can't even remember its name. I've gone through, in my sort of quest for interesting old things that I never watched at the time, I have been through the whole of The Expert with Marius Goring, who was a strange English actor who played in some amazing old films. I think I've talked about him before, but anyway. Yeah, that was a really interesting kind of cheaply made British series. Anyway, yeah, but I've been through all of those that exist. So now I'm on the lookout for something else interesting in the sort of British something I missed from the olden days, really. Some of the good ones that I want to see, like Rockford files, they appear to be only available on box sets and either digital, box set downloads. Oh God. But I remember that one was a fantastic soundtrack to my youth. I did look up, believe it or not, I looked up the Waltons the other day, and I was astonished to find the price of the full series of the Waltons. Unbelievable. It's like $100 and something or more. Just a huge price. I thought, well, I have a very soft spot for remembering the Waltons, but I couldn't imagine paying. How come that's wound itself all the way out? What the hell have I done? So just in working on that's amazing. In working on the frets, that has come completely undone. That thingy, what's it called? Grub's screw on the saddle. That's gone completely wound itself down, so the action is a mile high. Wow. Now I have to reset that, but that's okay. I did write down at home what I'd set it to, so I might have to reconsult it back at home. But anyway, it's leveled to my chosen action, which was as it was as I brought it up here today. Okay, so just to recap, we have set a lower playing action close to about the same as, if not a tiny bit lower than the I'm chucking this away, by the way. I don't know if you'll be able to see here. You can see that what you did wrong was you needed the red, yellow and white to go to that one, which is the hot lug. Okay, red, yellow and white had to be there, and the bare one there, and you went white there, red, yellow and bare there, so that those two pots couldn't work properly. Anyway, so that's going in the bin because it's never going to get used again. Old jack sockets and things get thrown away. They ain't never not worth using a second time. Okay, so there we have it. There will need, one should do a little bit of stretching on bass guitar strings. They settle, in my experience, a lot quicker than 6-string, even though they are pretty, much bigger gauge of string. I actually sometimes find getting that first note can be tricky. Yeah, I'll double check the recorded action settings at home. There we have it. Yeah, so neck relief checked and set. First fret action checked, that's good. Last fret action set, and we're actually a bit high here, so I'm going to twingle all of this to where it should be, because it ain't where it should be right now. All these have wound themselves out, which is very odd. So we've got a strange spread, but that will take some tweaking. Can't remember what it was. I've got it written down at home, so I will do that. The last thing I'm going to do now is just wipe the back where the sticky tape, the masking tape was, and just take off any glue that was there, and then I'm done. And I'm going to stop the film and go and get to the supermarket before it gets dark, in which case I will be able to charge me battery a little bit more. So thank you very much for washing. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Pav, I hope you enjoyed watching that. We'll tweak the action at home before you come and get it tomorrow, but it'll go back to where it was before these things unwound themselves and moved around. But there we go. See you again soon.